Good evening.
So, as Alex said, there tends to be a little bit of warfare in my work, which is heavy stuff. So I'm going to start instead with dinner, and we'll end with a joke and have the war in the middle. This is a poem that begins with a found poem from the 1954 Betty Crocker Cookbook, which is one of my favorite literary volumes. It is called Mock Duck.
Oh, yeah.
Use a 5-pound shoulder of lamb from the forequarter with the foreleg on. Cut it off 4 inches below the knee to form the head and the neck of the duck. Have the shoulder boned, mold it, and sew it in the shape of the body, leaving it hollow for stuffing. The foreleg should stand up to give the effect of neck and head. Split the leg bone 1 inch to form mouth. Use bits of bone for eyes. Remove a few stitches and fill the hollow with stuffing. Re-sew. Rub with fat. Roast. Serve hot, surrounded with mint or cranberry jelly on orange slices. It's a happy substitution for a holiday bird in Betty Crocker's Picture Cookbook, 1950. This was before Betty started hawking everything from Bacos to Hamburger Helper, before you could buy homemade cookies in a plastic tube. 1 bowl biscuits, double quick cakes, 400 pages of boyfriend catchers and husband keepers. Betty taught Francis, and Francis taught Mary. Mary taught Georgia, and Georgia taught me. A butter icing is like a favorite cotton dress, simple and easy to put on. If I were to design a coat of arms for our country, a pie would be the main symbol. Oh, women, handle flower as you should. It is a thing God-given, priceless, good. Betty's world is simple and dusted with sugar. Betty's whispering in your ear, a cookie can save your marriage, so get it right. I see Frances, young and beautiful, trying to keep her husband, putting on her best blue dress to serve his friends, their wives, wanting to impress. But before the guests arrive, before the curlers come out, the apron comes off, the pearls go on, there she is in the kitchen alone with the lamb, wrestling a dismembered animal into something it's not, sewing the meat into place, forcing in breadcrumbs and butter, cutting off chip after chip of bone, her neck bent like a lamb's ankle, making eyes for an imaginary bird. There is no tidy way to do this. There is no way to look good. When she married, before she met Betty, before she learned how to do and substitutions that are safe, is this what she planned? Or was she surprised to find herself making a cozy fireside supper in a loaf pan out of Wheaties, peanut butter, and ham? 60 years later, the stomach rebels at the thought of seafood salad, lemon jello plus mustard plus shrimp, delicate and party-fied. The mind is revolted. I can't swallow this. But Francis taught Mary, taught Georgia, taught me. Rebel, resist, revolt, rise up, or you too may find yourself making mock duck. Thanks. So now shall we have a little more? This piece is called 30 Shekels. I have never performed this in public, and I have never made it through it in rehearsal. Welcome to my life.
Yeah.
My friends and family on the right side of the aisle, people I've dated, people I've loved, have been accusing the left of waging class warfare. When I advocate for punching Nazis, when I suggest we eat the rich, I'm told my language is inflammatory and offensive. I should be gentle. I should be kind. I'm a Christian. I should love my neighbor, even the neighbors who live in gated communities and drive SUVs and send their children to private schools. After all, don't I enjoy my soft suburban lifestyle? Don't I appreciate the top-notch education I got at an affluent public school in violation of the Ohio Constitution and multiple judicial orders? Am I not glad to be the educated, empowered, effective member of mainstream society that I am? Am I not, in fact, a bit of a princess?
Yep.
I mean, yes. I am glad for these things. But being glad that I received a fantastic public education, largely against my will, makes me aware of the sorry state of today's schools. Being grateful for the social protection of my class, color, and gender means I would super love it if we could stop incarcerating black men. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because I am a princess. I am aware of the concept of social responsibility, and I wish that we would do our job to fulfill the social contract that sheltered and raised me. Yes, I want higher taxes. Yes, I want single-payer health care. Yes, I want a higher minimum wage and an end to union busting and to get the guns off our streets. Yes, 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 yes. Because class warfare is happening, and it is real. When the powerful class, Emma Goldman called them the owners, is willing to privatize public education, creating disastrously ineffective charter schools that siphon public money away from student services and into shareholder dividends, that is class warfare. The children who attend these schools are the survivors of a war on education. It's motivated by greed and it results in ignorance and a complete lack of skilled workers. They are the casualties in this war. The winners are the stockholders in private educational companies banking the profits from taxpayer-funded but shareholder-controlled schools. And when the owners are willing to privatize prisons, creating an invisible, underpaid, shamefully exploited and mistreated labor force, when they are willing to collect a per diem from the state for housing the incarcerated workers that they then employ to sort and wash garbage for pennies a day, that is class warfare. Sure. They're not actually killing most of the victims, but in a war, some people die. Some people are raped and beaten and robbed, and some people are enslaved. The owners of private prisons are slaveholders. Nothing has changed but the direction the money flows from the taxpayer to the government to the slaveholders instead of the other way around. The owners have monetized healthcare and education and prisons and the police. They own the companies that make and sell our tanks, and the tanks need to be used. So they create police forces in small towns that have military-level technology. There are tanks rolling through the streets of Missouri, a show of force, a demonstration of power, an illustration that the rabble should be afraid. Be afraid. Be very afraid. We say they can't kill us all. They can. They can kill you all. They can tax you and underpay you and use your labor and your body and your vote, and then finally they can kill you because this is a war. It is a war. The owners versus everyone else. And yes, people do die. I'm telling you this because my patron died the other day. She was hit by a stray bullet fired from a gun on the streets of Cleveland. I don't know who sold or who fired that weapon, but I do know that the laws permitting its use were written by lobbyists who were hired by the NRA, their salaries paid for with gun manufacturers' profits. The owners sell a gun, they pocket the money, they give a little to the NRA, they give a little to the government, they give a little to the shareholders. Those shareholders use it to buy their children Christmas presents, to pay for the gas in their SUVs and the HOA fees in their gated communities, the charitable donations to theaters and colleges and libraries. I wonder how much the profit was on that gun. I wonder what Smith & Wesson's quarterly dividend payout was if you spread that out among hundreds of owners and hundreds of deaths by collateral violence. There you have it. I tend to think that Ellen's life was worth 30 cents. I should do the math. I should figure it out, but somehow 30 cents sounds right. 30 pieces of silver is what Judas took to betray his Savior. 30 pieces of silver was also the price of a Roman slave.
Yeah.
I hope the owner's children get really nice gifts for Christmas. I hope the 30 cents the owners made off Ellen's death goes to a really thoughtful and beautiful and kind gift for a child. I can recommend a book or two.
Yes.
Thank you. So this is slightly better. From a happiness standpoint, thank you. As I mentioned in that essay, I work at a public library branch on the east side of Cleveland. Cleveland, the mistake on the lake, is internationally renowned for our social problems. The crime, the poverty, the burning river, the murderous cops, the devastation of the Rust Belt. I have friends from Denmark and Italy and Shanghai who ask, why is Cleveland so messed up when they've never walked on the Lake Erie shore or eaten a pierogi? But the city is admittedly somewhat messed up, and this library is smack in the middle of that. Crime, empty businesses, abandoned buildings, underfunded schools, sidewalks full of broken glass. That is true, 100%. When the children leave our branch, I don't know where they all go. Some have warm and loving families, but many are not sure where they'll sleep or whether they'll have dinner. The other day, during my workday, there was a debate on Facebook. I was multitasking. About whether it's possible to adequately and equitably fund public education for all children, not just middle-class suburban white children, but all children, all of them. A man I don't know very well was insisting that Ohio's unconstitutional school funding model is the only way that rich, white kids get a good education and poor, black kids don't, and that's just inescapable. While this was going on, while he and his family were debating possible funding models, with the default assumption that failure is inevitable for our poorer children, I was not really paying attention. I was not paying attention because Ava was asking for help. For 3 months, since National Novel Writing Month, Ava and her friends have been writing novels. They come to the branch, they sit down at the laptops and they write. I was told this was an impossible program to run. No one would come, they would not participate, that it could not be done. But today, Ava finished composing her text. She proofread it, she copy edited it, she illustrated her book with open source images, printed it, and bound it. She gave copies to the staff, including the security guards. Yeah. She is so proud of herself, and I am so proud of her. Her book is beautifully written and charming. It's a memoir of her baby brother's arrival and an essay about how much she loves him. The last page is filled with pictures of his favorite snacks. So, citizens, if you want to continue debating whether it's possible or even desirable to educate all children, if you want to continue clutching your pearls and hoarding your textbooks and TI-82s, go ahead. Keep all the goodies for yourself. Fine. I think it's a mistake, but I can't stop you. But also, you cannot stop Ava. She is 9 years old, and she finished her book today. She is working on the sequel. Okay, here's another food poem, and then as promised, I'll finish with a joke. When coffee dreams, it dreams of chocolate, says Starbucks. When I dream of you. Years ago, they were a novelty, darkly roasted coffee beans used for espresso. Years ago, espresso was a novelty. I was young. It was another century. I had never heard of a latte. A barista. Was that a type of matador? They were just coffee beans. We basically knew that coffee comes from a bean, but, and here's the good part, they were coated in chocolate. Not just a little either, but a lot. They came with a warning label, don't eat too much or your heart will give out. We sat cross-legged on the floor and ate them by the handful, our hearts racing, daring each other. One more, just one more. You were a handful. Your hip, your hair, I had my hands full of you. We kissed, lips sweet, mouths bitter, daring each other. One more, just one more. We fit together, 2 girls, 4 hands. We interlaced our fingers and I kissed your scarred wrists. You kissed my collarbone. You left a scar. You did not come with a warning label. You should have. We had too much and our hearts gave out. You hissed, you shrieked, I steamed, I boiled, and finally I burned, and I burned it all to the ground.
Ow!
Years later, a whisper that built to a roar. You're gone. Really gone. Your heart did give out, raced, pounded, stuttered to a halt. I wasn't surprised. I knew you had wanted the end long before we reached the bottom of the bed. Now when I dream of chocolate, of round, sweet, bitter beans, of tasting the soft shell and breaking the brittle center. I dream, not just a little, but a lot. I don't drink espresso at night. It keeps me awake. It keeps me awake at night when I think of you. Okay. So, to finish, this is a poem. To give some context, my arms are asleep. They have been asleep since 6 p.m. because we ladies with fantastic tas are given simply awful bras. They're made of cotton, wire, plastic, just a touch of tight elastic. Think how it was with pointy steel, or God, how silk and bone would feel. Each day we find the nightly news of yet another armpit bruise. If we've been cooking, there's always the curse of smelling like hamburger, garlic, or worse. At least they work to hold our things, keys and phones with buzzing rings. Put Kleenex in, keep your wallet there. Some air. It isn't worth it. It's not right, only feeling free at night. So ladies, let your bosoms go. Now, let's talk about your down below.